Hello, welcome to the Two Russells podcast. Here we are, episode 50, and we've had some amazing messages on episode 49 with the stories that Regina was telling us, Russell, wasn't it? It really was a great story, from £7 to £10, £1,000 investment, standing up to the bullies.
She was and is relentless. When you unpack that story, coming from very humble beginnings and, kind of facing adversity. And again, it's a common theme on this podcast. What an amazingly strong, robust and resourceful and resilient woman. I mean, incredible. And now has a very, very thriving business. And I love the story about her standing up to those four male bullies in that office in West Island. And that seemed to be the pivotal kind of, I don't know, almost the catalyst for her career going forward, that she kind of shrugged it off, stood up and kind of realised that she could face anything, I think.
Yeah, and that leads us on to today's guest. I think many people still talk to us about this episode, which was episode 27. A lady who did stand up in the end, went to knock on the door of a woman at work that he didn't actually like, Annalese, to say, I need to talk to you about something. Since that episode, 27 as it was, me and Russell, I know, have had many people approach us and talk to us. And one of the common themes and things they say is, how is Annalese? And that's something we want to pick today. And you mentioned to me, I think it was at the Belfry, that you'd, at the Agents Giving event, that you'd love to come back on and just talk about the reaction you've had from the podcast being out there, good, bad, indifferent, and general feedback. So we felt this episode 50, would be a great place to do that and unpick. And Russell will give, and I'll give, for listeners that didn't listen to episode 27. This is a harrowing story, and there is a health warning on both of these podcasts. So, please, before you listen, just be aware.
Yeah, I suppose we should do the housekeeping bit, shouldn't we? Which you've kind of just done, really, which is, look, this at the same time as being probably the Two Russells episode, I think, which has kind of put us on the map, defined us, thanks to the good grace of Annalese for allowing us to kind of talk to her and unpack. We will, in this episode, I'm sure, explore the nature and the content of the first episode, which, is hard for some people to digest. We'll talk about that in a bit more detail in terms of Annalese, no doubt, telling us some of the people that can't watch it, won't watch it, for their own reasons, and that's all fine. So I guess we need to kind of revisit why Annalese was in the Two Russells studio in the first place. Annalese, welcome back.
Welcome back. I feel like a Grand Designs revisit episode.
What, the before and after?
Yeah.
No, look, I'm genuinely delighted that you've come back. Absolutely delighted, and actually still a bit surprised and gobsmacked that you agreed to the first one. Let's just be very clear: we didn't push you into it. I mean, you and I had a very, very kind of tearful conversation after Women in Estate Agency in March 2024, I think it must have been, where you literally reduced me to tears in terms of telling me the story. And we kind of I think we might have been 4 or 5 drinks in by this point. We got to the point where we kind of both said at the same time, that you wanted to get it out there, almost to get it off your chest. I thought it would be amazing if you could do that to inspire others that might be in a similar position.
Come forward.
So should we just recap on the story? And rather than me trying to tell it, it's going to be better coming from you in terms of, yes, in your words. What was the story that we went over and revealed in episode 27?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big thing for me to kind of come on and talk about my history and my past. It was something that I hadn't ever done publicly before, had actually not even done with a lot of people in our industry. So I don't know what compelled me to tell you that day, but I did. But our conversation at the bar was about my childhood, my background, the fact that I was sexually abused and sexually assaulted by my father for 9 years of my life, from the age of 11 to the age of 20. As a result of that, I also had a daughter who's now 19 years old and at university. And we just talked about the reason why I told my story, why I came out and went to the police, how I did that, what prompted it, I think was a lot of the conversation. and actually the impact it had on my life afterwards as well, because it was a big grenade, is how I think I described it. I
Yes.
threw a big grenade at my entire life by telling everybody around me, by going to the police. But it was the best thing that I ever did. You know, he went to prison. He went to prison for 18 years. He is now released. He is now end of sentence. That is done. But yeah,
But not in your life.
not in my life at all. No, it was a
Or
very
your daughter's.
coercive relationship. Had
your
no
daugh-
contact with any
So
of
your
us.
daughter's an adult now, so she can do what she wants.
Yeah,
Is there any part of her that wants to make any contact?
no. So my now husband, who we've been married for 11 years, been together for 16 years. You know, he's dad.
He's amazing, by the way.
He's dad. He is amazing.
Because he's kind of sat there. Not only is he part of your journey in terms of obviously you having revealed this to him on your first or second date, I think you told me. Second date, if I remember
well,
correctly.
first date wasn't really a date. It was more of a let's go home.
Right, okay. Yeah, I think we explored that. Yeah, leave nothing to the imagination. But he stuck by you, not just through that, but when you then said to him, presumably across the kitchen table, "Yeah, I'm going to go and do this on a podcast," and he must have said, "What?"
I didn't tell him until like the week before. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want anyone to talk me out of it, because I felt that I might be swayed, I might second guess myself. And I think I said this previously, but I'm quite definitive. When I make a decision that I'm going to do something, I go and bloody do it.
But he was supportive.
You
didn't have to talk him into it. There was no row.
He was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, then great, you know. Is there anything you need from me?
And has the podcast, has it impacted him? Has anyone said to him?
Some of his friends who probably didn't know much about my background, like his close-knit friends knew, but maybe those who I'm connected with on LinkedIn wouldn't know that now do know that. But he's not had any negative comments, no feedback. If anything, his mates have messaged and said, oh my God, that was incredible. Like, to be able to have the strength to sit and talk about something like that you know is going to be put out into the world takes bravery or stupidity.
How has the reaction been to you, directly to you, since that podcast?
Oh, well, if I take it back to the day that it was released, the night before, I didn't sleep. I was really nervous. I was really anxious. And
regretting it? Or?
No, nervous about how...
Because I thought you were going to ring me and say,
don't put it out.
I can't do it.
No.
I know I've recorded it. You haven't done anything wrong, boys, but I can't put that out.
Yeah.
That never
I thought I was
crossed
going to
my
get that call,
mind.
didn't it?
No, again, because I had done it, I'd committed to the process and I'd said that this is going out. I mean, I even went to the Women in Estate Agency conference the next day. Even the night before the conference, I'd organised dinner with a load of people. So I left here after going and talking through all that to have an evening and just be normal and pretend that nothing had happened that day. So I didn't regret it. I was just worried about whether or not people's perception of me would change. People would be uncomfortable around me or having conversations with me, and whether or not anybody would care. Like, genuinely, that was
Well, you think they shrug it off in a horrible world that we now live in? They go, yeah, whatever.
I didn't know whether people would actively reach out and support it, because some people can get uncomfortable with these types of conversations. So it was like, I closed my LinkedIn messages that day.
Did you?
I just put like an out of office reply onto my LinkedIn messages.
I didn't know that.
And I didn't look at my WhatsApp messages until that evening.
And then what happened when you opened your digital life back up?
It just was like, just the floodgates. It was just...
Did it explode?
Yeah. Yeah, I had voice notes, I had messages, I had missed calls. Some people who knew I was doing it, some people who didn't know I was doing it. Some people who knew I was doing it and maybe were concerned about me doing it. Like, I'm going to say it, concerned that it was you two that was doing it. And they were like, oh.
Not very nice.
Yeah.
Name them.
No, I can't. I can't.
Or worried that we wouldn't be a sympathetic ear.
I think they worried that it was going to be sensationalized and like,
And
you
we
know,
didn't, did we?
but you didn't. And, you know, I think I text you because I actually watched it the night it came out because it was a bit of a blur. I watched it with my husband. Like, we sat down. This sounds really weird.
Yeah, I was a bit more worried that he might ring me actually and go, what the fuck? Yeah.
But we sat and we watched it, and my husband even said, like, you both handled it incredibly well. Like, and he was surprised at how smooth it was, and that it was in one, like you didn't have to pause, you didn't have to take a break, and it was like, it was just straight through.
Just for the record, we didn't edit it, did we? It
No,
was
no,
as
it was
live.
straight
It was
straight
as it
through.
was. You didn't ask us to take anything out. We didn't stop and say, "Oh no, I want to word that again." It was very natural, I think. So you got a huge volume of a big outpouring of messages. Positive, negative,
Yeah.
any negatives?
So different. It was different mixtures of messages. So I had messages from people just being like, "Oh my God, I never would have known. I never did know." Others of like, "I've experienced this," or "I've supported somebody through something like this." Or I then had people again message me going, "That was incredible," even though they were scared for me. But then I've also had it where I've shared it and people haven't watched it.
And they've told you
so-
that they haven't.
Yeah,
Just
and
can't
they've
bring-
only
can't-
recently told me as well.
Just can't bring
actually.
themselves.
So you
to
said,
it.
what do you think of
Well, this
what I sent
person
you?
featured in the conversation. So it was my friend Millie, who I mentioned. We speak semi-regularly. It's not like a
So
weekly
she,
thing.
just to recap, so she was the one you went to
Yes.
Yeah.
as the precursor, and she was the one that really encouraged you to go to the authorities, right?
That was
Yeah.
that evening police trail.
Yeah.
So,
that's who I
she's
stayed
really
with.
instrumental in this, and I guess you owe her a bit of a
I-
debt of
I-
gratitude,
I-
right?
That's what I've said to her.
But
like,
she didn't. Why would she not watch it? She was part of it. She was not part of it. Hang on, let me clarify that. She was on your side as support right at the beginning of this. So there was nothing that we would potentially could say within the conversation we had as the three of us that would be surprising to her or distasteful. Why wouldn't she watch it?
So I only found out recently that she didn't watch it because we've been in conversation. She's about to have her first child, which is really exciting, and been keeping in touch. And one evening we were on the phone for about an hour, and she's like, "I just need to say something." And I was like, "Okay, right, what?" She said, "I haven't been able to watch it." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine. Like, you were there, so you kind of know what happened."
You know the story, yeah.
And she said, "I couldn't watch it because it broke me. That period of time supporting you at that time broke me. Like, it broke her relationship with her partner, and she really struggled."
And you didn't know that.
I had no
That
idea.
there was a consequence on those around you. I mean, there's obviously a consequence on, your mum, for instance, and other
That ripple
immediate
effect,
relationships. Yeah, but you didn't realise that the person that ended up being kind of a confidant and a support. And I guess because you had so much going on in your own mind, in your own life at the time, police, relationships, and so on, but she never said at the time,
She's never said anything.
this has
in
really
all
been a
these
problem for me
years.
as an individual too. So her mental health suffered as a consequence.
Yeah. So she just said, like, I can't watch it.
So
and
how
I
do you feel
felt so
how
much
do you
guilt.
feel about that, Annalese?
Guilt. Because I felt like I hadn't realised what impact what I was going through
Was having on
was
other
happening
people.
on somebody who wasn't a big part of it. She was quite a small part, but she was an integral part. She was the reason I went to the police. She housed me sometimes during that process. She fed me. She drove me around to, police appointments and things like that. And I didn't notice.
Well, I don't suppose she wanted to burden you with her issues, given what was
You
happening.
were going through. Yeah.
Well, look, fair play to her. I suppose, look, under those circumstances, it's pretty understandable why she wouldn't want to kind of relive it. Has she still not watched it?
No.
So she never will.
That was about 2 weeks ago that she told me.
Wow. Okay. So we won't be insulted by the fact that she
No,
hasn't.
no.
It's not a
watched.
you
No,
thing.
no.
It's not all about me.
No, it's not
All
about
right.
you. No, it's never all about you, Russell. And what about work? When you went back to work, what was the work reaction?
So I was at LSL when I did the podcast. I was actually about to
Partnerships.
leave LSL. So I was franchise sales director. I was only there for 6 months. To be honest, I realised probably in December that it wasn't for me, but I kept trying. I think I even sound really positive on the pod when I talk about what I'm doing. But I just didn't enjoy being in a corporate business. I didn't enjoy lots of red tape. Those who know me know that I like to ask for forgiveness and not permission. And there's a lot of that in these big businesses. And I felt like a number, and to be honest. So I just made the conscious decision to leave. But before I did that, if I'm honest, I didn't receive a huge amount of commentary, feedback.
What, internally from LSL?
Yeah.
Did anyone reach out to you from above to say, we've seen it, we get it, we're
Yeah.
sympathetic,
And I think-
we're here for you, do you want to talk to
I don't think
anybody?
people know how to deal with it, do
People-
they? I
I
don't think
think-
they're trained or understand.
I didn't tell like the powers that be that I was doing that
Do you
because
think
it
they were
wasn't.
pissed off you did it,
No, I think
given that you worked for them? Do you think there was a selfishness on LSL's part?
I honestly don't know. So I told Paul Clark because he was my
Boss,
line manager
yeah.
at the time. Obviously, Paul left around the same time that I did. So I don't think I really gave it enough time for them to give me any kind of positive feedback or any feedback on it, because I didn't stay in the business much longer. And I also think it's because I didn't forge that many relationships while I was there. So it wasn't like friends in the business reaching out, whereas if you'd have been there for a couple of years, you maybe would have had a few more interactions with people. And we were quite a small, isolated team. So it probably, multiple factors. It didn't feel good. That, like, I've got to be honest, if I would say anything to anybody who's got a staff member or somebody working in their business that comes on and does these types of things, just acknowledge it. I think, there were acknowledgements, but really acknowledge it is what I would
truly,
say.
sincerely.
But no one said within the business you shouldn't have done that. It impacts on the LSL brand.
No,
like that.
not a single person. I mean, look, they were getting calls about people wanting to send me flowers and donations
Were they?
and things like that. And I said, I don't want that. I think I put a post out saying
No,
donate to
I'm-
like refuge and charities.
I'm
and
not
things
suggesting that LSL are like this. I'm just using them. They are the only example in this, right? As a corporate, and sometimes they do end up being a bit kind of a bit lumbering, I suppose, and a bit faceless. And again, I'm not making that as an allegation against LSL, but corporates can be. There was a story as we're filming this week, so probably as you're watching this 2 or 3 weeks ago, of a bus driver. Did you see it?
Yes.
Bus driver, as he's stopped at a bus stop, guy's got off the bus, grabs a woman's necklace, steals it, runs away. Bus driver gets off, tackles the guy to the ground, punches him. As the assailant goes to the ground, he retrieves the necklace, gives it back to the woman. I think it was it Metroline? I think Metroline are the company involved. Forgive me if that's not right. I think it's Metroline. Their response was to sack him. And the reason I make this point via this story is that
They're so removed.
Yeah, some companies, but he was actually on TV and radio yesterday. He was on GB News, and he was talking about why he thinks it was. And the company, this big corporate, decided to let him go because they didn't think that running after someone and leaving a busload of passengers was kind of conducive with their values. But also they invoked this thing within their policy, within their kind of employment contract, was that effectively left the bus and the passengers in danger. So a bullshit excuse, basically.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that sometimes, whether it's property, transport, retail or whatever,
There's a policy that needs to be overridden.
well, but companies can be a little bit over the top in terms of protecting their brand. They don't see the PR opportunity, which that was, definitely was, as in a positive. But they can kind of overreact and be a bit blunt and uncaring and unempathetic, I suppose. So yeah, I think that's the danger, I guess, of sometimes working for a big corporate. But what you got from LSL really was a kind of bit of a non-committal approach. They didn't really respond or react at all.
Nobody really properly acknowledged it. It was like, oh, we're aware we're getting these sort of calls and that type of thing. But there was no do you need anything?
Yeah.
That was the one thing I would say was missing from any sort of response. Was I came into work the Monday after that pod had been released on the Sunday, and if that was somebody in my team, I would have been like, hey, are you good? Yeah. Do you need anything?
But I think I would like to think that no matter how big the business, small, medium or large, that the company might actually look to you and say, can we leverage this a little bit to help other people within the business that might need some assistance because they've been through similar? Can we do something internally now that maybe, you can do, I don't know, an internal pod, or maybe we set up a session that's anonymous and whatever. People can come to you to ask for help. I mean, I'm slightly surprised that they didn't do that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of companies just don't know how to deal with these types of things, though.
I think it's an awkwardness.
I think one of the things that I've talked about in the last year is there's very little in the way of support in any businesses, especially in the property businesses, for women who've been through any form of abuse, domestic abuse, sexual assault, whatever that may be. There aren't any policies, there aren't any training, things on recognizing signs of somebody being in maybe a domestic abuse relationship. Yeah. There's a gap, I think, in our industry.
Also, and something I think you've tried to fill with some of your articles, because since the podcast, you've written several articles on LinkedIn, and particularly the platform where I see you, to talk about how people can get help and talk about the failings that you had in social services as well. How was the reaction to that type of thing? I
think it's been continuity really for a lot of people, because what we talked about was quite in-depth and quite detailed, but there were quite a few facets of what we didn't talk about that people do ask about, things like counselling, mental health, how you kind of go through that and come out like me today. And I was like, well, if one person's asking me it, somebody else is thinking it. So
Yes.
I just decided to put what I was thinking out on to LinkedIn, and it's received really positive engagement. In fact, loads of people say to me, I haven't seen one for ages.
Yeah.
Like when you post it, and I'm thinking
that
of doing
gave
like a
you-
Substack or
gave
something
you-
similar. So
Can I just, I want to pick a corporate thread just before we move on to maybe a slightly different part of this conversation. Do you think if the leadership team at your previous business had been female, you would have got a different response?
yes, I genuinely would. I think any business,
So if Verona Frankish had been your CEO, or a Kirsty Franks or whatever,
I think definitely. Yeah, and I think that's just relatability, maybe. I think that's relatability as being a woman, but being more aware, not being more aware of it, but seeing it more. Like, I think sometimes as men, you don't see all of the challenges and all of the things that women go through. But if you're another woman, you can relate to that or understand it, or maybe know another woman that's gone through a very similar thing. I think you're more relatable as a person. I look at Moneypenny, I look at, Yopa, I look at these female-run businesses, and their teams are always so much happier and engaged.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Moneypenny was like...
why are there not more women at the top of the UK property industry?
Well, that's the problem we're all trying to solve, isn't it?
It could be a conference. It's not a conference. We'll talk about that
But
very
not a
subject.
conference.
Next
yeah.
month.
Yes, yeah.
But it's like at Kotini, where I am now, when I joined Kotini, I was the first female hire, but they are a small business. They're a startup business. And now we've hired Vanessa in customer support, and, they're really keen
What
for
did
there
it
to be
do?
a
What does
balance.
Kotini do for those that don't know?
We're a digital onboarding platform. So essentially, from the point of somebody in a living room saying, yes, I want to instruct you as my agent, they can go into the Kotini system or their CRM. We integrate with all of them pretty much, and instruct Kotini. It's a white labeled platform. The vendor gets a link to sign their terms of business, do their ID check,
AML.
fill in their PIQs, payments like upfront payments, things like that, in one simple system.
That's
So
Sales
instead of
and
being
lettings or just sales?
just sales. But instead of a vendor getting a link from DocuSign, an ID check from this provider, a paper PDF, PIQ, coming into the office to pay any fees, they get one link and they do that in one journey. And that then pushes everything back into the CRM. It builds trust with the client because immediately they've got their agent's brand on everything that they're seeing. And it's like a painless process.
Well, it de-risks compliance, right?
Yeah.
So saves you from messing up and having then a reputational problem by way of you being, I don't know,
And there was lots of
shouted and
fines
screamed at by
recently,
HMRC
wasn't there?
and fines.
Lots
Yeah,
of
well,
fines.
A lot of
was it-
fines.
was it-
Mainly not that's failure to register
Yeah.
in most cases.
well, the
not
biggest
actual-
fine is still purple bricks, isn't it? From a few years ago now, which was £250,000 for
Yeah, there was something
not being
released
compliant.
last week of £846,000.
There's
number of
quite a
agents
few
being
big
fined.
names on that list as
yeah.
well. And you drill down to it. But for us, the kind of heart of Kotini, they developed the proposition, it was never for estate agents. They actually wanted to educate first-time buyers and support them through the home buying process. They created a Facebook group. In that Facebook group to date, there's over 60,000 members in that group that are communicating on an hourly basis of fees they're being charged, services that they're getting,
Really?
like wanting to understand the process.
Jitty needs to plug into that.
60,000 people.
forum.
Yeah.
That's vendors and buyers in there. We kind of police the group as well. So we don't have people selling loads of different things
Okay.
in there because it's a safe space. It's a community rather than a sales tactic. But recently we've had Move IQ. So Phil Spencer's kind of business, they're now coming in and moderating that for us while we grow Kotini as our B2B proposition. But
Yeah.
you would
Is
be
it Annabelle?
surprised.
Is it Annabelle, the MD?
Amanda.
Amanda, sorry,
Yeah,
yes,
Amanda
Amanda.
Harvey.
Yeah, yeah,
So she's basically looking after that group and sort of curating content for them specifically.
On back to the podcast, the other person involved, and I remember you, and I was listening this weekend to get ready for today again, with giving your daughter the file to review and taking that decision. How was your daughter's reaction to the podcast?
So she obviously knew the story, but it's different listening to it.
Did she watch it?
She did, yeah. So me
you?
and my husband watched it. She watched it on her own.
Yeah,
so we
that
gave
was
her
her
the,
choice, yeah.
like, however you want to watch it. Here's the link. Listen to it, watch it, whichever you want to do. She got a little bit upset about it because I got upset because I was visibly upset. And I think she's quite empathetic in that sense. So when I talked about my suicide attempts, she was quite upset with those things. And I think I made a comment in there as well of, him potentially turning his attentions in the future. And, I hadn't had that part of the discussion with her. She hadn't known that was a concern that lived in me. So it's just sometimes reading it and hearing it out loud are two different things.
It must be odd not being part of a podcast that was about you, as from her point of view.
Yeah, and it's really strange because some people who I know in the industry are obviously based in York. That's where I am. I know lots of property professionals everywhere. And there was like a mum that I know whose daughter's the same age as Megan, and they were at college together when this came out. And her daughter messaged Megan because I've watched it. And, my immediate response was, can you tell her not to tell anyone? Immediately, because Megan's at college and that's her story to tell. Yeah. That's not for somebody else
but
to
Megan's
start gossiping.
okay.
Yeah, she's great. She's
great.
Can
we talk about some of the people that you think, obviously without mentioning any names, any people that have contacted you, and maybe just give a kind of broad overview of those that have contacted you that have had similar experiences that you think the podcast and your experience has helped?
So there's one person in particular who I also met through a Women in Estate Agency event. So it seems to be a theme here.
They're doing some good, aren't they?
They're doing some good. But I met her at this event and I'd known of this woman for a few years. I'd also heard some really awful rumours about this woman who'd said, the rumour was that she had sexually assaulted another woman at another company that I used to work for. So I kind of just thought I knew of her. I didn't know her. And I met her at a conference and we got to talking. And then she disclosed to me what happened to her.
Is this after the podcast?
This is after the podcast.
So was that the doorway to her to approach you?
She still really doesn't talk about it to anybody else. It's still very much a secret for her.
But she confided in you.
She confided in me. But it got to the point where she was distant for a little while. I was checking in on her regularly. And then she said to me one day, she's like, I'm so glad that you kept checking in on me because there was one day that I was just going to end it all. And I'd gone and I'd bought a load of pills and I was ready. And then I took a phone call from you that day. And it was just to check in like, hey, how are you? I think I was in the car driving from a client. And she was like, that made me stop and think. And this woman as well at that time was being pressured by her family to take part in a documentary about what had happened to her, but it's because it had happened sort of in the family as well. And she was going to do that. And it was just absolutely damaging her mental health. And she eventually...
Because she was under pressure to do the documentary.
And she wasn't ready. She didn't want to talk about it. And she didn't do it. We had a really good discussion and she said, I'm not going to do it. So that one really sticks with me.
And you're still in touch with her? You still help her,
I see her. We speak regularly. Like she literally messaged me last night. And so we talk regularly and I check in just because. And now more so. But
you feel that your story and getting it out there has helped her?
Oh, the amount of times she said to me, like, I wish I could be as brave as you. She's like, she just likes knowing that she's got somebody to speak to that isn't going to be judgmental, isn't going to ask loads of questions or prompt where it's not warranted. And I can just listen. Like sometimes when you've been through what we've been through, you just want someone to listen, not to ask questions.
And I know you told the story, one, to tell your story, but also to try and help others and encourage others to come out and that there is solutions and there is people that will help you. Where are you looking to take that now, Annalese? Are you looking to take that further in actual talking events or
I'd love
speaking?
To. I'd love to do that. I think before I came on here, I was asked to speak at the Women in Estate Agency conference, which I originally agreed to, but then politely declined because I was terrified. Because I was like, I cannot stand in front of 200, 300 people and feel their emotions, because that's what you're doing. When
you'll be looking at their faces.
You can see the shock, you can see the tears, and that's really difficult. And that's why I chose at that time not to do it that way. Now that I've done it and I've had these conversations and people weirdly feel like they know me. You know, I'm more comfortable in doing that. And I'd like to just see more change in, you know, as I say earlier, policies of people training on how to support or see the signs of certain
Coercive
things, you know,
relationships and
just
abuse.
Yeah, any sort of abuse, because there aren't any policies in place. There aren't anything like that. And, you know, there's a guy that I spoke to recently as well on the kind of feedback front where he'd kind of gone through it third hand, second hand. Had met a colleague at like a service station, got there for the time that they were going to meet, and she had been raped in the toilets, and he found her, and he was completely traumatized. Obviously, she was completely traumatized. They still worked together. They got counselling, but it's completely like separate to the employment, and they were at work when this thing happened. And there was no counselling, no real support. So there's so many different things that come to my inbox of people's scenarios and situations where you can't prevent it, but what you can do is you can support it better. And I don't think there's enough anywhere to support people victims of anything.
It's a very isolating, very lonely experience when you think, you know, perhaps because you think there's some kind of shame to it, although clearly it's not on you, it's not your fault, but maybe you feel that kind of emotion that you can't just reach out. So having someone that they know has had the same horrendous experience, I guess is
They've seen around the industry, they've watched, they feel like they know you, as you say.
Yeah, but I don't think just having a support line in place is enough. You know, you can't say we support mental health by here's a number you can call. If like that's you know, you can text these like Survive. You can text these ones where an anonymous person will just text back
but it
with
is
you
anonymous,
and call you.
so it's not the same, right? So
No.
you don't feel support. Can you talk about your mum?
Yeah.
Oh, you rolled your eyes there, Annalese Walmsley. So we talked about her a bit in episode 27, and how, you know, I mean, God only knows how you and her navigate and navigated what happened. Where are you with her in terms of relationship now?
So one thing I will say is that I probably was too nice about the relationship with my mum in the first podcast, because
You pulled your punches?
I didn't. Well,
No,
I
held them
didn't.
in.
I held them
That's
in.
what I mean. Yeah, you
Yeah,
pulled
I
punches.
really pulled my punches because I was frightened of like just it being out there and her seeing it and what reaction would happen. And it took me going back to counselling to actually deal with my relationship with my mum. So we talked about it in the last pod, how I really struggled with the counselling, really been bounced around a lot. But I found somebody after we did this, and I thought, actually, I do need it. I like, not for any particular part of it, but for lots of different reasons, my work, stress life, you know, and all the other stuff that I carry with me. It's almost like this tension that I kind of, what do they say, like having a monkey on your shoulder, you know, it's constantly tense. You're always carrying something. And I met with a lady called Gemma, who's a counsellor who's local to me. She's about half an hour away from my house.
So you see her face to face?
See her face to face. I can do it through Zoom, but I was like, I'd rather go and see her. So I went to her with the intention of going, I'll just give it a go, see what happens.
Even though you had a bad experience.
Yeah. And I went in and I told her about all of my experiences. I told her about the failings of social services, the failings of basically everybody who was set up to support me failed me.
Yeah.
Like everybody. And I almost put her on a bit of a pedestal of going, well, if you do this, you're the last person I'm going to speak to on this kind of thing ever again.
You dared her to be good.
Yeah, basically. Well, the first thing they do is a 10-minute consultation call. So they call you up. They want to make sure that they kind of can meet where you're at.
Yes.
So rather than me sitting and telling her everything and going, by the way, I can't help you, they want to make sure that they can. And she was very candid with me and said, I'm not sure that I can, but I'm in a big group now because everything's changed with counselling now. They've got to have counselling bodies and they're all regulated.
The counsellor's being counselled.
Yeah. So they have like a network that they work within. So she doesn't know some, she can lean into that network for resource support and things like that. So that gave me a bit of comfort. And I was like, that's good. At least she's not just going, yeah, of course I can help you.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
£55, half an hour.
You know, and it's not cheap. You know, counselling, again, this is the other thing I will bang on about till I'm blue in the face is, it is expensive. You're paying 80 quid for an hour of somebody's time. If you are a negotiator, if you are somebody, you know, entry level, you cannot afford that 3-4 times a month. You just can't. That's like 400 quid a month. Like, not many people have that just kicking around. But I went to then my first session with her, and she cried. She cried. I made my counsellor cry.
Oh, wow. And I bet that's probably not happened to her very frequently,
No.
given how resilient she probably is and the stories she's heard.
Yeah, she said, you know, some harrowing stuff. She deals with a lot of domestic abuse, lots of things like that. And she was like, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. That was what she said to me in my first session.
What was it on the call that you had with her that made you think, I'm going to go to see her?
I think I knew I needed it. I felt a connection with her quite quickly, and I felt comfortable speaking to her. It didn't feel structured and wooden. It felt just relaxed, and that's what I wanted.
You connected.
Yeah. I wanted somebody who sounded quite empathetic, but would also ask the right questions, because she prodded me on stuff like, you said that, but what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
So she would ask for the right information. So I felt comfortable with her. And that's why I went. And I thought to myself, I'll probably just go for 1 or 2, and that'll be all I need.
And how many times have you seen her?
I'm still seeing her.
What, weekly, every fortnight?
Fortnightly now, maybe 3 to 4 weeks if I'm feeling like I don't need it. I can book ad hoc as well, so it's like I can literally.
So it's a regular thing, and it's obviously helping you. So how did she help you with your mum? Sorry to go back to that.
Yeah, no, I think we should go back to that. I started with counselling. I started to verbalise thoughts I'd had that I'd never said out loud to anybody.
Stuff you kept hidden in.
Yeah, stuff I didn't want to say because I didn't want to believe it was true.
Locked it away, yeah.
Yeah. So last year, so it was PM1, Property Mark 1 last year, came to London. It was my birthday, because I think it's around my birthday every single year. I think they want it to be my birthday party. But I came, and this was no surprise to me, but I didn't get a birthday card. I didn't get a text message from my mum. I didn't get an anniversary card. I had no acknowledgement of the fact that it was my birthday. And every other person I'd met on that day was like, happy birthday. People brought me presents, had cards, hugs, you know, and it was lovely. And I waited and I waited. And by the Sunday, still nothing, like literally nothing. My birthday was on the Wednesday or the Thursday, nothing by the Sunday. Do you know how awful that is to feel when you don't have a dad anymore? You feel like you don't have a mum, and if you do, you don't exist.
It's worse than not having a mum, because you have got a mum. You know she's around. She's got a phone, and she has forgotten, presumably, rather than not bothering, but has forgotten that it's your birthday.
It's like, I'm the oldest child. You know, you don't just forget.
Yeah.
We'd like to think that birthdays are kind of tattooed on our parents' brains, wouldn't you? Really?
Yes.
But
Jesus, I still remember my ex-husband's birthday, you know? So it's just something that I feel like genuinely you can't forget. And
so was that a pivotal moment then, where a combination, what I'm getting here?
So that was a tipping point.
Yeah, so you've had that tipping point, that kind of, you hit a wall, if you like, in terms of, okay, that's a bit out of order. But then coinciding with the counselling as well, helped you get to a new place.
Yeah, so leading up to this for years, so I can't remember whether we talked about this on the pod, but my custody battle for my daughter, that was the worst thing. That was worse than going to the police for like experience wise, because I basically fought my mum for custody of my own child and lost. And she basically got a special guardianship order, which for those people who don't know is basically like an adoption order at a time when I was at my very lowest.
And how old were you?
So I was the sort of 21, 22 at this point, because it was literally after my dad had been arrested. On the pod I talked about I left her with my mum for a bit. What I didn't expect to happen was that my mum would then attempt to take custody.
And formalise it, so you couldn't have her back.
Formalised it. Had to go through family courts, and she didn't need to take it that far. She could have just gone with a residency order where the child lives with you, but the legal guardianship is still with the parent. She didn't do that. She took me to court and basically took away my parental rights. And I allowed that to happen for years, you know, I allowed that to happen. And even when Megan came to live with me, that was because she allowed it. It wasn't because I
remember it
won.
It was a birthday, wasn't it? It was a birthday.
It was around my father-in-law's birthday. We were out for dinner
that
I got the call. But it was controlling. And it was an element, but again, I'd ignored all of that because I was like,
And
the
that's what you're
courts have done
helping
it.
and talking through with the
Yeah.
counsellor.
So there was that. And then there is another thing that I talked through with my counsellor, which is called parentification. Don't know whether you've ever heard of it as a term, but it's basically when a child becomes the parent. So
right, yeah.
you
have to look after the parent.
have to look after
Yeah,
them, but
because your
that doesn't
parent
mean caring.
might be a drug addict or a alcoholic or whatever.
It doesn't always happen that way. So it can be that, like in my instance, it was money. I became a cash machine. Never had a conversation with her unless she wanted something out of me.
Right.
So whenever she calls me, it would be nice, but then half an hour later I'd get a text saying, can I borrow 50 quid? And because I have it, I lend it. And yes, she pays it back, but it was just transactional and constantly transactional. So I just got to the point where I stopped that and I said, I'm not doing it anymore. And she still continued to ask.
Can I just say something? Your mother doesn't seem a very nice person.
Everybody says that.
Look, I'd never met her, but from your description, I'm sure if she was here, she would maybe proffer another side of the story. Can I say something even more controversial? And this is, rightly or wrongly, whether I should say this or not, but because it's me, I'm going to. How dare your mother deprive you of custody when under her very nose, her husband sexually abused her daughter?
I've never found an answer to it. You know, my mum and everybody refused counselling at the start. She got custody of my daughter. She chose that. I think she just at that point was then, I'm kind of bored of this now. You can have her back almost, you know. She never maintained a relationship with Megan either, which was the worst part. And that was another, when I started totting up these marks, these black marks against her and counselling, it was just like, it was in black and white in my face, basically. Like, why are you allowing?
So what have you done? So are you now not in contact?
No.
all?
Right. So last
And you
June,
feel relieved by that?
I felt like a huge weight has been lifted because I felt like I was carrying a responsibility that I didn't need to carry. I felt that I was waiting for her validation constantly. Like, if she didn't wish me happy birthday, then it wasn't my birthday. It's like, well, it is. I haven't spent a birthday with her since I was a child. She's never visited me. She didn't even message Megan on her 18th birthday. That was another, like,
it brings new meaning to that phrase, isn't it? You can't choose your family.
Yeah.
It's definitely true, isn't it? I mean, and stories that you hear often in the US where children divorce their parents. I mean, there's a case for it, isn't there?
Yeah, well,
There
one
really
of the
is.
things that my counsellor has said to me post this conversation is you kind of then go through another form of grieving. So you're grieving somebody that is alive.
Yeah, you've lost them,
But they could reappear. So it's like a never-ending cycle of grief. Whereas I've cut her off. She still attempts to get involved. I mean, the last lame attempt that I had was where she transferred £1 into my bank account to get my attention. And it's like these things, I know.
I mean,
like,
10 grand might have done, but
just
a pound?
ridiculous. Just again, the day that I messaged her and said I no longer wanted to have a relationship with her and I was done and I was out, I was like,
Oh,
please
you actually
don't.
did that. So you didn't just cut her off.
Oh no, I
by
told
not
her I was
responding.
doing
You actually
it.
told her.
Yeah, I told her. I sent a very lengthy message. I told her exactly why.
Did your counsellor tell you to do that? Or not tell you to, but to tell you that to cut her off might be better
get closure.
to actually do it, formally?
She said, well, she didn't
Like a
really,
resignation letter,
She
right?
didn't really. She said, look, whatever you do, I won't judge you for it. And even if you turn around and change your mind and let her back in again, I still won't judge you for it because it's your life and you choose who
So
you
how
have
did your
in
mother
it.
respond to your resignation letter?
After I said, please don't call me at the end, she immediately tried
called you.
calling. And I was like, okay, so I've asked you not to do something and you've done that. Then she just kept trying to call me all the time. Then she was sending me these bank transfers and all these types of things. And I still at this point hadn't shared the pod with her. So nobody in my family had seen this pod from last year. I finally shared it with her in November, I think it was. Literally zero acknowledgement. Not even told me that she's watched it.
Yeah.
Literally nothing. Whereas my sister, who I also shared it with on the same evening, was like, I know you've always been remarkable, but you're amazing and I love you and, you know, everything that you would say to your sister, you know. But my mum, even now, still hasn't even...
You think she's just boxed all
I don't
of
think
that
she's watched
off?
it.
No,
boxed,
she might have
not
watched
watched,
it, but
boxed it all off.
she is and should be, in my opinion, guilty. She's probably got a big dollop of shame going.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was.
Damn right.
The question that I came out within my counselling session where I talked about verbalising my thoughts. There was a session where I sat down with Gemma and I basically said, I'm in my own head, I don't believe that she didn't know. And I said that it doesn't matter whether I ask her that question or don't ask her that question. I'm not going to like whichever answer she gives me.
Yeah.
If she tells me she didn't, I'm not going to believe her. If she tells me she does, then it's done anyway.
Well, that has to be game over.
That's why I'm like, let's just end it. I don't get anything from her being in my life. I'm a big believer in, you get something from people you're with,
I think, maybe generally to a lesser extent than you're describing, I think there's often an argument that the parents don't deserve to have the children that have come out the other side of whatever they've subjected them to. And the success of that child, particularly in your case, is of no credit to the parent whatsoever. They shouldn't take the credit. They don't deserve it. And again, I haven't met your mum. Maybe we'll get her on. Maybe she can come and justify herself.
Good luck with that.
Going forward, Annalese, so you're encouraging people to reach out for counselling, encourage people to tell somebody if something they feel is not right. What other mechanisms would you encourage people to use?
I think use your platform for the greater good. I think my LinkedIn, things like that is a bit of a mix, because I don't want people to think I'm just the sales director at Kotini. I'm actually an actual person with lived experiences, still living through those experiences as well, like the counselling, the mental health challenges, all of that sort of stuff that you go through. Be visible about it. Don't do it in the shadows, because you're basically not helping anybody if you're doing it in the dark. It's like, turn the light on, let people see the real you and who you are. But yeah, I think businesses, look at your policies, look at your support that you offer your employees. If you've got somebody, everybody's talking now, right? There's podcasts everywhere, isn't there? We said this at the beginning. Everyone's copying you, we know.
And if a head of HR somewhere listens and said, Annalese, would you come and talk to our leadership team?
Absolutely.
You do that?
I think I want people to ask me questions, because I think too often people hear these stories and they think, oh, that's it. I don't want to ask any questions because it might upset them, or it might
and the
trigger
signs
something.
to look out for.
Yeah.
To ask those people, are you okay?
Just, are you okay? Or, if you want to know more about something, I'm not going to find it creepy or weird. Just ask me the question and I'll be open and honest, because that's just what I am. But in terms of speaking to events, in terms of podcasts, in terms of any content that I can do to support or even educate, inform, help, then I will absolutely be up for that. I was asked last year as well to go to a domestic abuse survivor conference, and they've asked me that if this year I might speak at that as well. So that again is speaking to peers who've had very similar experiences, but that's not where those conversations need to happen. Those conversations need to happen in rooms where everyone thinks this doesn't happen to them or their daughter or their friend. And quite often, like you say, that is in big head offices, training days. Yeah. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm personally very glad that you've been brave enough to come on and talk about this for the second time. And that I hope, as we always do on
the
this
mission
pod,
to help people as well.
Yes, it's it either provides a bit of kind of respite in people's minds if they have been through similar, or indeed, and I'm sure you don't mind this, people reaching out to you still to say, hey, I've had a similar experience. I don't know what to do about it. I'm in a bad place. But also, don't forget, there's the inspirational bit that, as we often say on this this podcast, that people that have gone through adversity have kind of got a fork in the road that they can choose. And after that, whatever it is, whether it's their own alcoholism or whether it's failure in business or whether it's abuse as you've suffered, you can turn left, which is sit in a darkened corner with a can of special brew and a line of Coke, or you can turn right, which is to say, fuck it. I'm not going to let that define me. Yeah. I'm actually going to use my experience to be stronger and better. You and many others on the Two Russells have decided to take the right-hand fork, and well done to you for doing so.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for coming back, Annalese, and telling, how the podcast affected you and has helped others. And I hope you continue to get those calls from people. Well, I hope the calls stop eventually, but for the right reason. But I hope people will feel comfortable to reach out to help you to help them. And if anybody wants to get hold of Annalese, you can get hold of Annalese via me or Russell or via LinkedIn, can't you? They can find you very easily
Find me
on
nice
LinkedIn.
and easy.
Yep,
Yes.
yep. Or any event, because you're usually at these property events.
Yeah, come find me.
Come find
Including
you.
Women in Estate Agency, which I know, look, we keep trailing. We have on other episodes, but you'll be there. We'll be there.
I will be
Yeah.
there.
So an important event.
Yeah. So thank you. That's episode 50. So 50 episodes, Russell. Can we do another 50, do you think?
I think so. I think we've got another 50 in us.
Another 50 in us?
If not just for the celebration by the river.
100
last
not
time.
out.
Yeah, indeed.
100
Yeah.
not out.
Our century.
Yeah.
Why not?
So that's it. Episode 50. Episode 51 is out next week, where we learn about all the money that's moving around the world and into different countries in relation to property transactions. So I think you'll find that extremely interesting. But just for now, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good night.